Today's true incident has been sent by Chloe. Born and raised in Lyon, Chloe got a job placement through her university in 2019 at a bank in Montmartre, Paris, as an executive. Nestled in the heart of Paris was Rue de Lumière, a charming cobblestone street lined with small art galleries, cafes, and antique shops. Among them stood Galerie d'Enigmes, a gallery known for its peculiar collection of mysterious and eerie artworks. The owner, Madame Claudine, was an eccentric woman with a penchant for oddities, always claiming that her gallery housed secrets untold. One rainy afternoon, a struggling art student named Juliette wandered into the gallery. She was looking for inspiration for her upcoming project and hoped that the peculiar artworks could stir her creativity. As Juliette explored the dimly lit space, her eyes fell on a massive, centuries-old portrait tucked away in a corner. The painting was unsettling. A young woman in a crimson gown stood in a dark room, her pale face framed by cascading black hair. But it was her eyes that captured Juliette's attention. They seemed too real, almost alive, as though they were watching her every move. Beneath the painting was a brass plaque that read, Marguerite de Chavelle, 1793. "Who is she?" Juliette asked, her voice echoing in the empty gallery. Madame Claudine emerged from the shadows, a sly smile on her face. "Ah, Marguerite. She's an enigma. They say she was a noblewoman during the Revolution, but her story ended in tragedy. Some even claim the portrait is cursed." Juliette chuckled nervously. "Cursed? How so?" Claudine leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. The painter, a man named Émile Brosseau, was obsessed with Marguerite. When she refused his advances, he captured her soul in this very painting, condemning her to an eternity of torment. Those who take the painting home are said to hear her whispers, and sometimes worse. Juliette dismissed the tale as an urban legend, but she couldn't shake the painting's hold on her. On impulse, she bought the portrait, convincing herself it was perfect for her project. Claudine hesitated but eventually sold it, muttering, "You've been warned." Back in her tiny apartment overlooking Montmartre, Juliette hung the portrait above her desk. That night, as the rain lashed against the windows, she began sketching her ideas. But every so often, she felt a chill run down her spine, as though someone was standing behind her. Around midnight, Juliette heard a faint whisper. She froze, her pencil hovering over the paper. The sound was indistinct at first, but then it grew clearer. "Help me!" Her heart raced. She turned toward the portrait, and for a split second, she thought Marguerite's lips had moved. Shaking her head, she laughed nervously. "I must be imagining things." But the whispers continued over the next few days. They grew louder, more desperate. Juliette began having vivid nightmares in which Marguerite would appear, pleading for freedom. In one dream, Marguerite whispered, "Break the frame. Set me free." Unable to sleep or focus, Juliette confided in her friend, Antoine, a fellow artist. He laughed it off. "Juliette, you're letting your imagination run wild. It's just a painting." But Juliette wasn't convinced. Determined to get answers, she delved into Marguerite's history. She spent hours in the archives of the Bibliothèque Nationale, uncovering fragments of Marguerite's tragic life. She learned that Émile Brosseau had indeed painted her portrait shortly before she disappeared. Local legends hinted that her spirit was bound to the painting, but no one knew how to break the curse. One night, Juliette decided to test the dream's message. She grabbed a hammer and chisel and approached the portrait. As she struck the ornate frame, the lights in her apartment flickered, and an icy wind swept through the room. A blood-curdling scream echoed, and for a moment, Marguerite's figure vanished from the canvas. Juliette's heart pounded. Had she freed the spirit? But as the dust settled, something horrifying happened. The once lifelike eyes of the painting now stared blankly, lifeless. The whisper stopped, replaced by a deafening silence. Relieved yet unnerved, Juliette turned away from the painting. But as she did, she caught her reflection in the mirror across the room. Her blood ran cold. Standing behind her was Marguerite, her crimson gown torn, her face twisted in rage. "You thought you could free me?" Marguerite hissed. "Now you are mine." The next morning, Antoine stopped by Juliette's apartment. worried after not hearing from her. He found the door unlocked and the apartment eerily silent. The only sign of Juliette was the portrait of Marguerite. But something was different. The figure in the painting now wore Juliette's face.